Good morning. I am Hema Priya, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. Today I am going to start with the course Design of Steel Structures, which has a course code of U18 PCCE 604. Under that subject, today I am going to deal with the topic Design of Beams. Design of beams. It is one of the part of the structure. Beam is one of the element of the structure. So what are the elements of the structure available? Beam, column, footing, all together we call it as a structure. Under that, today we are going to specially deal with the design of beams. So under the design, what are we are going to do? We are going to decide the size, shape, material, all those things for the upcoming behavior, load behavior. That is what we call it as design of beams. So to start with, let us start with the classification of beams. What are all the classification of beams available? Primarily, we classify into two types. One is main beams and then secondary beam. What is the difference here? Main beam, which carries the loads straight away from the column and further distributes. So from the slab or floor, whatever may be, the load will be distributed immediately to the main beam. From the main beam, it will be further transferred to the column and further to the foundation beneath. That is what is the purpose of main beam. And next, coming to the secondary beams. Secondary beams, what is the purpose? To distribute the loads evenly to the main beams. That is the main purpose of secondary beams, so as to counterfoil the span of the member. So this is the main purpose of the secondary beam. So that is why on the other hand, we call it as joist. What is that joist? Generally, secondary sections such as channel sections, angle sections, we call it as joist. So that is why we go for channels and angles for secondary beams in some places. And some of the names of the beams given here, based on the location, requirement, purpose, the name is different. Girders. The main beams are always named as girders. The main member, it can be a beam or a column. The main members are always referred to as girders. And secondary is joist. And furthermore, based on the importance, we categorize on so many names: lintels, purlins, rafter, spandrels, and then stringers. So based on the purpose, we give different names for the beams. All comes under main beams and secondary beams. All these categories of names comes under main beams and secondary beams. And furthermost, we have two more classifications named as laterally stable or laterally unstable. Or on the other hand, we can call it as laterally connected beams or laterally unconnected beams. What is that called? Laterally connected. Laterally is nothing but connection on sides, connection on ends of the beam. Whether the beam is connected at the ends or it is not connected above, simply rested above some of the main member. That is what we call it as laterally unconnected or laterally unstable. So general beams, general girders, all the other beams are comes under laterally stable. That is, comes under laterally connected beams, which are connected at the ends, either by columns or some of the supports, whatever may be the support condition. Support condition may be simply supported, fixed, roller, hinged, whatever it is. Any type of support condition, it has been connected. That kind of beams we call it as laterally stable beams. And second type is laterally unstable. It is not connected at the ends, rather it is simply rested above the beam or any member. Under what condition we go for this type of beam? In the case of roof trusses, we go for rafters to rest the roof sheeting. That kind of beams we call it as laterally unconnected beams. Rafters are the one which comes under laterally unconnected beams. So these are all the basic classifications of beams. So initially we have major classification. One is main beam and secondary beam. And these are all coming under main beams and secondary beams. Based on the purpose, location, usage, we go for different names. And furthermost, we have two more classifications, namely laterally stable and laterally unstable. On the other hand, we can call it as laterally connected beams and laterally unconnected beams. And this is the permissible stress design. Stresses in structures at working loads are not allowed to exceed a certain proportion of the yield stress of the material. So here, stress levels are limited to elastic range. Stress levels are limited to elastic range, and further it leads to highly conservative solutions. Further, it leads to highly conservative solutions. And what is the method we are going to follow for designing the beam? What are all the methods we have so far? Generally, we have working stress method of design and limit state method of design. So working stress method of design is the one which we have been used in the older days, but recent codal provision completely follows the limit state method of design. Everything have been changed with the limit state method of design, and now we are fully following limit state method of design in practice. So in this method, the structure has to be designed to withstand safely all loads and deformations likely to occur on it throughout its life. And designs should ensure that the structure does not become unfit for the use for which it is to be required. The state at which the unfitness occurs is called a limit state. Further, what are all the limit states we have? First limit state is ultimate limit state, and second one is serviceability limit state. So under ultimate limit state, what are to be considered? Flexural, shear, bearing, compression, torsion, and lateral torsion. All these categories comes under ultimate limit state. And further, second one is serviceability limit state. Serviceability limit state, under that service. So in the name itself, you could see service. Service in the sense it is measured after a period of lifetime. After a period of lifetime, after so many decades, or after 5 years, after 10 years, what will be the impact of that structure? Impact in the sense, in engineering point of view, we can state it as deflection, how much it has bent or any changes occurred. So deflection and vibration, suddenly if there is any vibration, because of that there will be any impact produced in the structure. And if there is any fire accident or any explosive accident, because of that, what happened to the structure. And durability, all these comes under durability. If the structure is completely safe against all these categories, we can state that the structure is completely durable. So that is what we call it as serviceability limit state. So finally, we have two kinds of limit state. One is ultimate limit state, and second one is serviceability limit state. Ultimate limit state is a immediate one. Immediately after, once the building is ready for use and start its occupation, what is the impact, whether it is trailing or something, that is what immediate, that is ultimate limit state. Second one is serviceability limit state. It will be creating an impact after certain period of lifetime. And next most important thing is about the types of loads to be dealt while designing the beam. What are all the types of loads? Major load in our reinforced concrete structures, or it can be a steel structure, the basic load to be considered is about the dead load. Dead load is most important thing. Under that dead load, the main thing is our self weight of the structure which is to be designed. Dead load is the one which wherein you have to consider the self weight of the member or the structure. That is what comes under dead load. And apart from that, if there is any immovable load in the sense, you can consider even an equipment also, heavy loaded equipment that is to be fixed at first floor or second floor permanently, that is not going to be moved anywhere. That kind of immovable loads also can come under dead loads. So all the immovable loads we consider as dead load. And second thing is imposed loads. Imposed loads are nothing but live loads. Again, live loads are nothing but movable loads, which all are moving, even ourselves, even human being, chair, table, whatever may be the load, which can be moved. Thus, those things we call it as imposed loads. Now you are using a crane, a gantry crane, to move the loads, heavy loads, even that is also coming under live loads. So while designing, you have to consider dead load, live load separately, right? Which comes under the category of imposed load. And third one is the wind load. When you have to consider this wind load, when the height of the structure, if you are constructing a building for maximum of ground floor, first floor, second floor, it is okay. You can consider only the dead and live load. When you are going beyond the limit of 30 meters, you have to consider the wind load, because the effect of wind load will be high in the horizontal direction. So to overcome that, you have to design specially for wind forces, wind loads. That's what we call it. We call it as wind load. Even for that, I'll give you an example. If you climb a mountain, if you go up further, you will be lacking of oxygen. Further, you will be having high air pressure also. That is what we call it as wind load. And next category is earthquake load. Earthquake is 100% unpredictable, but based on so many earthquakes, we have certain codal provisions wherein the zones have been divided. In India, earthquake zones have been divided. This place, earthquake zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Likewise, based on the previous earthquake, it has been given, but it is 100% unpredictable. Earthquake loads are 100% unpredictable, because earlier, based on the previous earthquakes, we are assuming the zone, but it is not necessary that only in that place it has to come again and again. It is 100% unpredictable, and it is purely based on the natural calamity. And next most important load is the erection load, which is the most important to be considered in steel structures, because in RCC structures, erection is not a major factor. We are going to cast in situ straight away for the required size, shape monolithically. Whereas here in the case of steel structures, we are not going to cast everything in the site. All the structures are manufactured in the industry, and even some of these structures are even fully prefabricated in the industry. Finally, it will be erected in the required location. For example, if you consider a high mast lamp, even a street light or high mast light, it has been produced somewhere else, it is manufactured in the industry, and finally it has been erected only directly in the last stage. So at that time, you will be undergoing some loads. So while designing, you have to consider this kind of erection loads also, particularly for steel structures. And next type of load is, all these are furthermost coming loads are secondary loads. Under that, first loads is accidental load. Accidental, suddenly if this the structure is subjected to any fire accident or blast, or if there is any heavy vibration impact because of the equipments used, so that also has to be considered, but even that is also unpredictable. And because of the temperature, because it is steel, right, the structure is completely steel, so temperature effects also has to be considered while designing. And next thing is the stability of beams. This is what I was explaining in the classification of beams. So under that classification, we had another category called laterally stable and laterally unstable. At that time, I was explaining about what is that. Laterally, in the sense, it is sides at the ends of the beam, whether it is connected or it is not connected. That is what we call it as laterally restrained or laterally unrestrained. So you could see the picture here. Pictorially, it has been depicted clearly to see the difference between the buckling of beams, which is laterally connected and which is laterally unconnected. And next type is the failure modes of the beam. What are all the failure modes of the beam? Mainly, the failure mode completely depends on the support conditions. What are all the support conditions we have? Basically, we have simply supported. Simply supported, which will not restrain any horizontal force or any moment. It will only restrain the vertically downward force. So this is called simply supported beam. So naturally, you can easily understand that simply supported beam will easily fail than other beams. So when all beams cross section has become plastic, the beam fails by formation of a plastic hinge at that point of maximum imposed load. The bending moment cannot be increased and the beam collapses as though a hinge is been inserted into the beam. So here you could see the different classifications of cross sections. What are all the classifications? First thing is about the elastic behavior. And second one is partially elastic, partially plastic. Finally, the beam becomes fully plastic. This is what is the concept of limit state. Limit state concept in the sense we are using the cross section to its maximum. That is what we call it as fully plastic. We are making the beam cross section fully plastic, wherein a plastic hinge is formed. Wherein a plastic hinge is formed at the final. So here you could see the stress strain. I mean, ultimate stresses behavior cross section that you could see here. At yield point, partially plastic point, how the cross section behaves, and at the fully plastic stage, how the cross section behaves. So you could see this here in the picture given clearly. And this is the failure which is occurring because of the local buckling. Local buckling in the sense, the beam, the main purpose of beam is to take the load which is coming from the floor, and then further it has to be transferred to the column. During that process, the flange of the section has to transfer the load to the web. During that process, the flange will tend to buckle like this. This is what we call it as local flange buckling failure. This is what we call it as local flange buckling failure. During the process of transferring the load, this happens. Why it happens? If the design is poor and if the design is not satisfied with the transferring load, this kind of failure may occur. And this is the next kind of failure, which is shear failure. This will occur during the shearing process. If the web is too thin, and it will fail by buckling or even crippling in the shear zone, which is shown here in the figure you could see here. So here you could see different kinds of failure because of web bearing and buckling. Due to high vertical stresses directly over a support or under a concentrated load, the beam web may actually crush or buckle as a result of these stresses. And this is the failure because of lateral torsional buckling. So lateral torsional buckling. This is the behavior of beam with restraints. Restraints are nothing but moments. And this is the local buckling of compression members. Buckling at flange as well as buckling at the web. And these are all the formulas which are used to determine the limited width to thickness ratio to ensure yielding before plate buckling. B limit divided by T, that should be lesser than or equal to K pi square E divided by 12 into 1 minus V square into Fy. Everything in root. That should be equated to 16. Local buckling. About local buckling, what did the code specify? The local buckling is avoided to specify the breadth to thickness ratio limits. Hence, we don't consider local buckling explicitly. However, in IS 800-2007 limit state design, the local buckling would be pivotal aspect for the design of structural components. Unstiffened or outstand elements. So here, I will explain one by one from the picture. First picture is an angle section which has both legs. The both legs may be equal or may not be, but it will be connected on only one leg. With the plate or with the connecting member, it will be connected on only one leg. other leg will be completely free, and that is what we call it as outstanding leg or unstiffened leg. So this is a good example for that. It is an angle section. One leg will be connected to the connecting component. It can be a plate or angle, or it can be a member, whatever beam to be connected with the angle. One end will be connected and the other leg will be completely left free. And that leg we call it as outstanding leg or outstanding element. And second one is the T section. Here also you could easily identify the stiffened element and unstiffened element, that is outstand elements. Even in all other channel sections, angle sections, eye sections, everywhere you have this unstiffened elements. So remaining elements are stiffened elements. And this is the sectional classification, most important part in the design. Section classification, you have to classify the section before you start with the design. What are all the classifications we have? Basically, plastic, compact, semi-compact, slender. So you can go from bottom also. Slender, which is in elastic, very basic elastic. Next step is semi-compact. So this two triangles, it is nothing but the cross-sectional utilization, maximum extreme stresses at the, maximum extreme fiber stresses. When it goes to the middle, it becomes zero. In the case of slender, it is completely in elastic. And second one is semi-compact. And third one is compact. And final thing is completely plastics, and which forms a plastic hinge. So whenever you start with the design of the member, you have to classify the section first of all based on the width to thickness ratio of the member. So plastic sections, what I was telling is the same thing I've been explained here. Plastic cross sections which can develop plastic hinges at and have the rotation capacity required for failure of the structure by formation of plastic mechanism. And second category is compact cross sections which can develop plastic moment of resistance but have inadequate plastic hinge rotation capacity for formation of plastic mechanism. And third category is semi-compact cross sections in which the extreme fiber in compression can reach yield stress but cannot develop the plastic moment of resistance due to local buckling. And last category is slender cross section in which the elements buckle locally even before reaching yield stress. In such case, the effective solution for design shall be calculated by deducting the width of the compression plate element in excess of semi-compact section limit. So these are all the section classifications. So whenever you start with the design of the section, how do you do the design of the section? Initially, you will be assuming the stress based on the type of the member. Further, with the assumed stress and the given load, you can easily calculate the area required. So for the area required, you have to choose a section from the steel tables. Once you have chosen a section from the steel tables, you have to categorize the sectional classification, whether it belongs to plastic or compact or semi-compact or slender. You have to classify the sections before entering into the design. And this is the pictorial representation for the classification of sections. So here you could see in slender, up to this limit only, that is up to elastic limit, it will fail. Whereas next coming to compact, up to plastic limit, it will fail. Whereas in the case of, after slender, you have to go to semi-compact or semi-elastic. In that, it will fail at yield stage. And in the case of compact, it will fail at plastic stage. And in the case of plastic, it will fail, it won't fail at plastic. After that, it will form a plastic hinge, and then further it will fail. This is the pictorial representation of the classifications of sections. Sectional classification for Indian conditions. So here you could see an I section have been given and all the notations also have been marked. The thickness of the flange, width of the flange, thickness of the web and the height of the web, everything have been given, notated clearly have been given. So here classifications also have been given. What is this B by T? B by T is nothing but flange breadth to thickness ratio. Again here coming to the web criteria, D by T, that is depth of the web to the thickness of the web. So based on that you have to determine whether your section belongs to slender category or semi-compact or compact or plastic category. So generally nowadays we use the steel which has a yield strength as 250. So the epsilon value is always of 1. So need not calculate straight away. You can use the value of epsilon as 1, which code specifies straight away. So here in this picture, you could see lateral torsional buckling. In this image, you could see a beam is bending in the horizontal manner. That is what we call it as lateral torsional buckling. This is flexural yielding. So these are laterally supported beams. Anyway, it is supported at the ends, maybe with the column or with the supports, with the member, whatever beam connected. These are called laterally supported beams. So here we design for limit state of flexure, limit state of shear, limit state of bearing, and limit state of serviceability. And here comes the moment curvature characteristics of a simply supported beam. Here you could see the graphs with the ratio of curvature to the moment, which represents the yield moment and then plastic moment. And these are all the shape factors, some of the shape factors for different shape of the sections. For a diamond shape, it is 2. For circular shape, it is 1.7. And for rectangular, it is 1.5. And for circular, it is, it is not circular, it is a oval shape. It is 1.27. And for our regular I section, it is 1.14. For all other built-up sections, you have to calculate the shape factor. Next, coming to the limit state of shear. Here you could see the cross-sectional stress distribution for combined bending and shear in beams. And this is what we call it as web buckling, effective width for web buckling. That is calculated using the formula P suffix WB, that is equal to B1 plus N1 close the bracket into T into FC. This formula is given by the code IS 800-2007. And this is the formula for calculating web crippling. The formula is P suffix CRIP. It denotes crippling. That is equal to B1 plus N2 into T into F by W. This is what called web crippling. Design strength in bending. The factored design moment M at any section in a beam is due to external action shall satisfy moment which is lesser than or greater than M suffix D. That is design moment. Design moment. Next is laterally supported beams. Laterally supported beam, the design bending strength as governed by plastic strength MD shall be taken as, this is the formula, M suffix D, that is design moment, that is equal to beta suffix B into Z suffix P into F suffix Y divided by gamma M naught. So what is all this? So beta is a factor and B is the breadth. Z is nothing but the section modulus. Fy yield strength. Gamma m naught is nothing but the partial safety factor. And holes in the tension zone which will reduce the stress, that also have to be considered while designing. And this is the shear area. For calculating the shear area, the formula used is AV Fyw divided by root 3. Here you could see the intermediate beams which is offering lateral stiffness. Beam loaded by cross beams which provide lateral support to point B and C, that you could see here pictorially. This is the plan showing that the beam will tend to bend fully. Instead of that, we are supporting at the point B and C. Because of it, the bending pattern is varying. Now coming to the design of steel beams. So as I was telling earlier, design of steel beams completely deals with the regular procedure. Initially, you are going to assume the stress of the member. Stress of the member you are going to assume based on the type of the member, whether you are going to design a main beam or a secondary beam. Based on that, you have to assume the stress. And further, load will be given to you. Load will be given to you for designing. Load is known, stress is known. With that, you can easily calculate the area required. Once the area required is known, you can easily choose a section from the steel tables or structural engineer's handbook. Further, you have to check for the classifications. Section classifications. For that sections, you have to arrive the section modulus, shape factors, everything. This is what, as I was telling, classification of sections. Here you have to check for the adequacy of the section, which includes self weight of the section also. Further, you have to go for check for design shear strength. And finally, you have to check for the bending capacity. If the beam is laterally supported, what is the condition? If it is laterally unsupported, what is the condition? And last thing is, most important thing is that you have to check for the deflection. The allowable maximum deflection is given in table 6 of IS 800/2007. You have to compare with that. And then you have to go for web buckling. This is for check for web crippling. These are all the deflection limits which is depicted in IS 800/2007. So with this, we come to an end of the unit design of steel beams. The final most check here is the deflection check, that has to be checked by referring the table which is given here in IS 800/2007.